everybody, welcome back to another episode of Is It Worth the Grind? In today's episode, we're going to be talking about Cannon Fist from the game Arcane Odyssey. Cannon Fist is a very simple to understand fighting style within the game of Arcane Odyssey. If anyone who's played it most likely might be kind of familiar with it if they've gotten to the end game. Cannon Fist is a style, fighting style specifically for people who use combats, where you throw cannonballs. It's pretty cool. It's definitely one of the most unique fighting styles within the game, as it is the only fighting style that is ranged, which is very cool and very interesting. Not many people use it, as it does seem to be a very jarring kind of a fighting style, because when you pick combat or be a berserker, most people kind of look away from a fighting style like this because they want to get up close and personal and deal with enemies, you know, like punching them or kicking them, depending on whether you like that or not. I personally have come across Cannon Fist and actually genuinely quite like it and think it is a very viable option for both PvE and PvP content, as I've seen both sides of the story. I've seen a really good PvPer use Cannon Fist and get a lot of value out of it, and of course Cannon Fist in PvE is no joke, as I've already made a YouTube video actually based around a build on Arcane Odyssey that includes the Cannon Fist fighting style. Now, my build during that video wasn't exactly the greatest build if you want to talk about most aspects of it, as the build just kind of centered around raw power. As you know, in the Bronze Sea, you don't have to worry about ever getting that close to your opponent, as a lot of enemies will get stuck on things and aren't very strong themselves, so you can trade out damage pretty easily without worrying about dying. And since you deal so much damage, you couldn't get killed really. But in the War Seas or the Nimbus Sea, it is quite the opposite. You will tend to end up getting killed quite a bit because of only having power. You start to strike out after quite a while. So it is kind of hard to center a build around just one singular fighting style, as most people say that you should try to have some synergy. For those who are curious on what build what I'm trying to currently go for is a attack speed / power build, which is pretty easy to do, as you know, both of those things aren't hard to get your hands on as long as you know what you're doing. Attack speed, because cannonball spam, aka just holding left click, which is where you just chuck cannonballs, is very, very viable in terms of PvE and PvP content, and it's really, really good. For those who are curious how to obtain Cannon Fist, you just get it from Palatown, from of course a tutor who is directly in the center of Palatown, right there, where Ronas is. Upon you talking to them, you can do the quest at any level, and he will say, "You must go claim 2 bounties for me," and you attack him once more. And once you get 80 strength or 80 stat points into your strength stat, he will allow you to learn Cannon Fist. Not hard, it's pretty awesome. It's a really simple quest, not hard to think about, not hard to do. Anyone can do it. Some might say, well, this isn't really a grind, but more or less just something I can go out of my way real quick to grab and then switch out if I don't like it. That is true. It is very easy to get your hands on a Cannon Fist, but there's a lot of dedication that comes to using a fighting style like this, as it does require you to change a lot of your stats around just to use it viably, right? Of course, you're gonna need your fair share of armor, you're gonna want a high amount of attack speed and whatnot, and you want some decent enough power. You're also gonna need to know how to aim, which is another factor in the group of flaws that it has. Well, maybe you're wondering, well, what about other fighting styles? Aren't they the same thing? Not exactly. A lot of them just kind of center around you amping up your attack speed, giving yourself more armor, and just face tanking anything you need. This one is a little bit more intricate, as you won't have the same amount of DPS, but you will have the safety of being far range away from your opponents as you're attacking them. While this is not hard to get your hands on, it is also a commitment to use cannonballs, because a lot of people might not feel the need to use exploding shells to kill everything, as there's just no reason to, and they're very expensive to get your hands on, as you do need to sink other pirate ships just to get them, or find them in chests if you're lucky. As the game does weigh them as a rare item, they are much tougher to find in chests, and you will only be likely to find them in chests that are silver rarity or higher. Of course, you get them most commonly from sinking other pirate ships and getting the sealed chest, or getting them from Dark Sea chest or Nimbus Sea sealed chest. Those are really easy ways to get them. I'm talking about exploding shells. Exploding shells are very powerful. They deal the highest amount of AoE damage and massive amounts of damage on their own. So they're very valuable for anyone who's using Cannon Fist, and of course you want to preserve them for anything that isn't a boss or you trying to grind or something like that. Now, this is to answer the question, is it worth the grind? Yes, 100% it is worth your time to get Cannon Fist if you feel that you are lacking in range. Cannon Fist is my main fighting style. Really do enjoy Cannon Fist, and I've been playing a bunch on this character recently, as you can see. And of course, I use Iron Leg as my second fighting style. Iron Leg is very good as a substitute for any if you need to get some close range damage in real quick, because currently it is the highest damaging fighting style as of the most recent patch. So do with that information as you will. You know, if you want to use other fighting styles, you can. You can use any fighting style as your secondary fighting style. It can be Thermo Fist, Sailor. Thermo Fist, Sailor, for Sailor Leg. A lot of people I've heard use boxing quite a bit. Now, for those that want to ask about the PvP aspects, if it's worth the grind in that aspect, I have no idea. I do not PvP in this game. I've only heard on the grapevine and upon talking to people where it is good in PvP or not. I've heard really just kind of a mixed bag for things, but that kind of goes for any fighting style or anything in this game. I've heard two sides of the same coin. It's really good or it's really bad. So it seems to just be very subjective to each player. Obviously, it's just kind of a skill issue if you can't make it work, and if you don't like it, then switch it out for something else. Cannon Fist is also a very, very high DPS for long-range targets. It's not difficult to make Cannon Fist really work. It is very simple by design. And because of that, it really does get a high rating in this game for me, as it's not difficult to kill pretty much anything when you have Cannon Fist, and you don't need to worry about finding ammo, because there's always guaranteed an ammo vendor in every single village you go to or town. It's not hard. You just go to a shipwright, spend 120 galleons, get yourself, you know, that's 120 bullets right there. You can farm them by leaving and rejoining the server, and as you can see here, I'm going to demonstrate how good it is. As you just saw there, I chucked only a couple cannonballs, and this end game boss is already fading out. Also, this is a very, very, very good fighting style for farming bosses, as you don't really need to worry about, like, you know, attack patterns or anything like that. You just kind of, you know, attack away by just staying in really far away and attacking them. Of course, there are still the same downsides of being ranged, is that means it's very difficult to hit anything that gets up close to you, which is not really much of a downside, because you can just shoot the ground next to you, and that will, of course, work just fine. As you can see there, you switch to your second fighting style if it gets a bit hairy, and just like that, she's defeated. Yes, so this fighting style is very good, as you just saw there, with my little build here and quaint character with mediocre stats at best. So, for those who want to optimize this build, I've seen people with Cannon Fist that can deal upwards to 300 damage in just a single throw, which is ridiculous and incredible. It's nothing compared to Conjurer builds or anything like that, but it is definitely up there when it comes to power and capability, because anyone who gets caught off guard by it can get killed pretty much instantly. So, yeah. You know, there's a lot of bounty hunters out there that don't really use it or really think about it, but if you're a bounty hunter, give it a try. If you have any friends that you play with in this game where you go bounty hunting with, I guarantee this will be a really welcome area for your arsenal, especially if you are a berserker. For those who are wondering, should this be my main fighting style or my second fighting style? From what I know, I've heard a lot of people say that it should always be your second fighting style if you're going to choose Cannon Fist as a berserker. For those wondering why I chose it as my main, is because it's my favorite fighting style, and I plan on mastering it and getting really, really good with it, and just seeing all the ins and outs of it so I can give better opinions on it in the future. That, and I'm very passionate about the idea of it, because to me, throwing cannonballs in a video game just seemed really cool. And there's nothing wrong with that, because half the fun of this game is just figuring out what works and what doesn't work. So, as always, guys, if you hated this video, please make sure to dislike it and leave your criticism in the comments below. I really do appreciate it, and thank you guys all so much for the support. I'll catch you all in the next one.